Okay, glad to know you're still there. And if you are just tuning in or probably joining us on the show, it is still the midweek edition of Rapid Sport on Rapid Television, and I am Ijoma Victor. Okay, our guest is finally available for us, and this evening we'll be looking at the state of Nigerian football. Well, I've been joined by Coach Godswill Saliu. Yes, he's the secretary of Karima Sports Club here in Abuja. Well, since he's someone already that knows about football, we'll see how we can go into that conversation this evening. Good evening, Kochi. It's good to have you on the show this evening.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate Mr. Victor.
Well, thank you so much, at least for your patience, hooking up with us this evening. Let's just go straight into what we have this evening. And I would like to throw this question to you. I know it might come as a surprise, but let me just throw it to you. Do we really have a problem with Nigerian football?
Sorry, can you take that again?
Okay. Do we have a problem with Nigerian football? And if yes, is it with the administrators, or is it leadership, or is it the structure of the football, or is it the league, or is it grassroots development program? If truly we have a problem with Nigerian football.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we have, and I believe that we have a problem, with football in Nigeria. Reasons that it is very obvious to even the blind that there's a problem. Judging from the current decline that we face across all the stratas in our teams, from the national team, Golden Eaglets, Flying Eaglets, and of course the recent one that just happened, our women who were for the first time, they failed to qualify, for the, so there's a problem. And for all the factors which you prompted out, like the administrator and the structure, I think one of the major problems we are facing is our culture.
Mm.
In Nigeria, own culture. And we try to do things the way the white man tells us to do things, that when you are training, don't talk, when you are communicating. But if you look at what happened in Olympics 96, we had some of these people who spoke their local languages while they were on the pitch. Sometimes when you play and you communicate in your own language, it gives you the sense of belonging. What I want to say is that we must go back to that initial state where we are as Nigerians, where we are known for the glory we had and those attributes we had. And of course, there are problems with administrations when it comes to, players not getting their paid bonuses and all of those factors which ought to motivate players to do the playing on the field. When your mind and you have this psychology that is not going well, it has this general way of affecting players. So I think, yes, if there's a problem, there's a problem, a very big problem at that. But I want us to go back to our culture, meaning that it is not just right for you to go to academies to just go and pick players. If you check out those previous days, the players that we got that represented our national teams, they were gotten from the villages. Individuals went on without bias. They went to select players on that ground. But now selections are based on academics, based on godfatherism. Some it's becoming political. And when you bring in politics into sports, you bring in religion into sports, it has a way of affecting the whole problem. I just feel we should go back to our drawing board, do it the way we used to do it, then we'll get things right. Thank you.
Okay, you talked about a culture. In as much as I want you to still throw more light into it, because something kept creeping into my mind. I remember when we have football styles like the Brazilian kind of football and so on. But you are making reference to languages on the field of play. Can you really throw more light to how culture has really affected our football?
Yeah. You see, the aspect of culture I was explaining is that what makes a culture is literally, the type of food we eat, one, then our food also, these are part of our cultural things, our heritage. I'm saying that we want to do things the way the white man wants to do it, meaning discipline. You must be disciplined. You must not talk. You must not communicate. You must not do all of these things. I feel that is not right, in my own opinion. And I encourage my players, please communicate at least, but minimize your noise. You do not eliminate talking in the pitch. I only advise them to reduce their communication on the pitch. Because if you do not talk, it affects style of play. And sometimes you are playing against an opponent who does not know how you communicate, especially on an international scene. You must bring in all your local ways of communicating. Now, for instance, you see in Yoruba language, they may call a player Eshin, Eshin, like, a good player. In Hausa, they say, ah, Kwaro, this one, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Some
I
of
do.
these words, they are motivating factor to even make you play well. So I think our culture is our culture. We had ways of doing things. We had all of these things, but when we have academics now, academics that are coming in, they are now teaching us discipline. You must not talk. You must play in a regimented manner, in a structured manner. You must play to do this. The way Pep Guardiola has just come into an ideology. Everybody's now trying to imbibe their ideology into forward, eliminating our usual play. For instance, we do not have the likes of JJ Okocha. We do not have the likes of Kanu Wanko anymore. Like taking the character of Kanu Wanko, he's a character that is not fast on the ball. But when you check his technical ability, he's very, very superb. But now you check that everybody wants a fast-moving player who can move at the speed of light, combining all the characteristics of an N'Golo Kante. He should be able to run, he should be able to do this, but it doesn't work like that. I think we need to just go back to our culture, what gave us results in the previous time, those things that made Nigerian teams very fearful. When you are playing against Nigeria, you are scared because they know that we had our own culture and we must build that culture and also build our philosophy.
Okay,
Thank you.
you've talked about culture. Now let's look at other factors, on ground. Should we also make reference to leadership and administrators? Because now the NSC, probably the federal government, they've tried to set up a normalization committee to look into Nigerian football in the next 3 months. Now the same issues have been there. So why now? Must Super Falcons not qualify for the World Cup, or the Flying Eagles not qualify for the World Cup before setting up, a normalization committee? Now let's look at the aspect of administrators and leadership as at this point.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, the question about our leadership and our administrators, well, I'm actually happy there's a normalization committee. That is a step in the right direction, if you ask me. It is a step in the right direction. It is never too late for you to do the right thing. And I think that should be the initiative of the NFF president, that is Mr. Ibrahim Gasso. It is not too late to do the right thing. You can call in stakeholders, bring in people who actually understand these things. Let us come to sit down together. Of course, it is always said that it is through dialogue that a problem is always resolved. You will be surprised that there are administrators who are out there who know the rules of this game, who can engage. But the question we should be asking ourselves is that what are we even normalizing in the first place? Like, are we normalizing those that are affecting us in terms of maybe finances, or are we normalizing those things that affect the players, or the welfare of the players, or the welfare of the coaches? There are a lot of things to talk about. So, but it is good they come to a round table where they will have representative of all of these stakeholders, bringing in, the NFF, bringing in the National Institute of Sports. Let them have representative, have players representative. I think there's a player union and all of these things. Let them come together, sit down and see how they can, normalize. But that, I think, is a good step in the right direction, trying to normalize. But every step is coming to do what is right.
Okay, but why will it take
Even
this?
though,
But why will it take this long? This long in the sense that we all know that it is still the same, 36 FA chairmen and the FCT that really cast their vote. About 44 members of the Congress that do cast their vote. Why has the NFF not expand this so that other bodies and members will also join in and cast their vote? Just like you mentioned, the NIS and also players' body, we also have journalists who can also be part of the process. Why now? Why is it taking this long to do this?
that is still what we are saying. Since they want to normalize, I think it is a step in the right direction. When people do the right thing, you tell them kudos to what they are doing. I think they should come to that point where they should, look at an extended view, bringing in more people who actually have their own ideas, their own philosophy to actually bring this thing to a reasonable end. But I think if they will invite player unions and we have like our old players, let them come in to actually, see what they can do to encourage all of this in the direction. I think NFF has done the right thing to see how they can send the committee, or else this decline will continue if something is not done about it. But I think one of the things they must abolish, or they would have to considerably consider, is to ensure that academics, these youth academics, are not given that full hand. They must go to the villages to go and look for raw materials. I think the raw materials are in the villages. People who we have not seen play, they are the ones we need to go and look for. Work on them, teach them what they need to teach them, and you send them to the field. I tell you, distance time, we'll come out strong and we'll build, what we need to build.
Now
Thank you.
you talked about players getting the raw materials, players from the villages. Don't you think that the administrator or probably club owners are saddled with that responsibility, because the structure of how to pick up players all come from the academy? So don't you think the academy are the ones responsible getting these players, the raw materials you have mentioned, from the grassroots?
Can you take that again?
You talked about players from the grassroots, the raw materials. Don't you think it's the job of the academy to get these players rather than the administrators themselves?
Yes, I don't think it is the academies. Okay. If you ask, NFF wants to do the right thing, but they should set in independent scouts, people who are not known, across board. Let them go to states and go and fish out players, charging each of them that, young man, I need you to take the responsibility of getting me a midfielder from Kano State or from Oyo or from. So if they all go and do this, assembling 22 players or assembling 38 or 48 players coming together without each of them knowing where they are coming from, where it is not being influenced, once they come in that direction, you know that it is not a factor of somebody recommending. It is what you have gone to bring in. The issues I have with academics is that academics in Nigeria don't have equal strength. There are some academics that are more, powerful than some others, meaning they will have a say ahead of some other academics when it comes to bringing in players to future for our national teams. And, collaboratively, once NFF have some of these academies that are registered under them, it makes it easy for them to, okay, I'm picking 2 from your academy, I'm picking 3 from my academy. And we may not have the best, because those academic coaches have already brought in their own philosophy to the players. So coming there to now blend them into a perfect system, blending them into a perfect weapon, will be very, very difficult. And I think that's where our problem is coming from. We need to go back to what we used to do before, if you ask me.
Okay, last year, the under-17 national team did not qualify for the World Cup. Now, we don't know if there was a transition of the under-17 players down to this present under-20 that failed also to qualify for the World Cup a couple of weeks back. Now, you're mentioning academy. I look at the situation whereby the coaches will invite a total of almost about 40 or 50 players to camp. Are these players not from the academy, or they are being recommended to the coaching crew?
Sir, if you have been to any of these screening processes, I think like maybe under 17 or under 20, what happens is that there's always a list that is being brought out, and they start calling names of people. They call your name. When they call you, you're allowed to come in. Then at the end of the day, there are some players whose names are not always on the list. And they can. And by that, you cannot judge. Now, what does that tell you? That only tells you that, there's been some element of invite. Now, the question is, this invitation, based on what parameter or based on what data are you using to invite these players? How are you sure that this invitation matches, the rudiments of what we need in a quality player that we are looking for? So I just think that this academy, it has its own good and it has its own bad. Yes, you can get some good players from the academies, but then they have a greater influence when it comes to that selection being imposed on our administrators. So it affects our administrators in a way.
Okay, now let me ask you, how can we, fight this particular issue? because you've made a critical point, saying that they come with list. I know many will come with letter from His Royal Highness. Either they want the Igwe in the east, or probably the Emir in the north, or the Oba in the east. Or you see some coming with letters from National Assembly saying, put my players on this list. How can we fight this?
My brother, this this is Nigeria. So asking how we can fight to manage the situation. You know, we cannot really eliminate that, but we only see how we can possibly minimize the effect. I would ask if we can do this experiment. The experiment is this: let us get players from the academies.
Okay.
Let's have independent, get players from our local stratas. You
Okay.
can even use Abuja as a case study. Train those local guys for three months. Use your academy players. Train those other guys. Let them compete. When they compete, you see these local players that don't have a name, that are looking for a reputation. You know, this academics player, one of the things they do is that if he doesn't work with our national team, there's an option for them to travel outside the country. So all of these options, it doesn't make them give out the best. That they have this long left, they've been, you know, inducted into the academy. But you see those local players that they know that this is their lifeline for escape from poverty. They give you 100. I am so sure. See, the hunger you see is not much in academy players compared to those who are out there struggling for survival. And I can bet you, if you go to Kano State or Kaduna, for instance, where I grew up, there are quite a number of Jos, of course. There are quite a number of talents there that when you watch them play, you are amazed. Like, these people don't play under academy, but yet the basics of playing, you know, control, pass, vision, and all of these things that you seek in a player, they possess it. I think if NFF can do that experiment and do that research and see where all of it will come. But as it regards to recommendation, you know, from influential people in Nigeria, it will always have its way. And we can only try and minimize it, but I don't think we can eliminate completely.
Okay, probably that should be a solution one way. We can only minimize it, but we cannot eliminate it. Now, there's one thing that is tied to the technical department of the NFF, the national team, okay, appointment of coaches, selection of players, all falls on the table of the technical department of the NFF. Do you think that department is still worth of being called a technical department?
Yes. I think they are doing their job and they are what that name technical, the technical department. You know, like things have just gone wrong. Yes, there's a decline. Yes, but you know the measures they are putting in place to do this correction, I think, is also good. But I think they should be more concerned about preventive measures than control measures. We shouldn't wait until we do not qualify or we are eliminated early in the competition before we start looking for curative method. I think if I will have an advice for them, their approach should be more preventive, you know, than corrective. But if they are doing things in the right direction, for curative, I think they are doing well. But for preventive, I think sit back, see how they can, you know, make progress, get policies about, you know, what needs to be done for them to have progress. Meaning conditions should be set, standards should be set. So if people do not meet up standards or requirements to get things in line, they should be removed from that committee and bring in more working hands.
Okay, now let's stay with Grassroot. I see because most of the questions when I keep answering, making reference to the how has the Abuja, you know, football, how has it been to you so far?
Yes, Abuja football has been good. If you ask me, wonderful. I think the FCT FA Abba Mukhtar and his team, the likes of Ilerica, I think they are doing very, very well. Part of what I've seen with FCT football is you know, the ESCOs, the executives of this FCT FA, they are very compassionate people and they accommodate. I think I've been privileged to meet Ilerica, you know, and I've been opportune for him to train me and the likes of some people we met in NIS, Coach Jibril, and some other people. We've actually had training from them. And if you ask me about the general, way FCT football has gone, judging it from a grassroots, I think it is all participatory. People cutting across from every council have been, accommodated, and they've been drafted into, the game. And I don't think any council is left out in participation. They give you that landing for you to actually express yourself. And part of it is that, sometimes they organize all these seminars for our grassroots coaches. And from the area council I come from, Buhari Area Council, we used to do seminars, and we invite the likes of Coach Bartholomew, Abimbola, and some of this. They come, they talk to us. We did good topics like sport analytics, the importance of data for sports. And I think FCT in its own is doing well. Our FA chairman is doing well. Our, coaches, they are doing well. It is all participatory. There is no delay. But of course, there are still, internal challenges that people face. One team is doing better than another team, or your team have players who are planning to travel outside the country. There's this internal hatred and beef, gossip, gaslighting of teams that this is not doing well. Which is normal, but you not pay attention to, all of these small details. But on an overall scale, I think grassroots football in Abuja is actually moving as proposed.
Okay, before I let you go, why I was actually talking about how has Abuja grassroots football, how has it been so far, is because I want to link it up with what's happening in the league. Talking about the NNL and the MPFL. The last time we had a club from Abuja in the MPFL, that was many years ago, and that was FC Abuja. Because the league the Abuja football will reflect on a team in the league. In Lagos, we have about 3 clubs in Lagos now that will be in the MPFL next season. In Abia State, we have 2 clubs also in the MPFL. So that was what I was trying to ask. Looking at the league that we have, or probably Abuja football, if that can progress or probably translate into us having yet another club in the MPFL.
Yes, it is possible. I think there's this Sporting Dreams then that they're making efforts to qualify. Sporting Dreams, EFCC and CTFC, they quite made their effort. But I think one of the challenges, FCT faces in that direction is most of these clubs are private owned and they are not government. That is one. Then number 2, I recall when there was when the table was displayed a time. I can't remember the details, but I don't think whether it's EFCC that needs to qualify, or HB, they call them High Boss Sporting, that needs to qualify that period. Within them, the Abuja team, they were praying for one of their team not to qualify. I don't know if you understand. Let it be on record that it is our team that is the first to play MPFL. These are part of the small, immaturity that, all of these teams display. You are fighting your own brother. You don't want him to qualify for MPFL because you are from the same geopolitical zone. So you even try and make sure that somebody from another state qualify at the expense of your own brother or your neighbor who is within you. And I think we need to look at it in that direction and see how we can manage some of these differences among coaches. There's this beef, among these our local internal coaches that we don't want to qualify. It is us that want to qualify. Forgetting that football is wide. And today it is your turn, tomorrow it can be my turn.
Okay, thank you so much, Coach Godswill. Truly appreciate you for your time. Time is fast spent, but we don't really have much to really continue with. Truly appreciate you. Hopefully next time we'll still continue this conversation, especially talking about grassroots football.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Pleasure.
Okay.